I'm writing this part in an Uber on my way to a doctor's appointment. So I noticed that there are a ton of issues with the video in last week's episode that I was unaware about. It all looked perfectly fine while I was editing, but turns out that not all of the slides were visible afterwards. No worries, the audio wasn't affected whatsoever, it's just that some slides I was going into actually didn't appear on your end. Which I guess that means it's lucky that I had included a link in the description of that episode where you'll be able to view it yourselves and see the slides that hadn't appeared during the episode. Though there are also a few problems in terms of me repeating myself and going on autopilot at moments where I shouldn't have. So for example, there was a point where I was doing a price comparison on the platforms that my novel is available on, and it turns out I had said Spotify 3 times, so Spotify, Patreon, and Wisdom, I instead said Spotify, and Spotify. Which isn't that big of a deal, but I found it extremely funny when I was watching it over again. But anyway, that's enough for an explanation. Let's get into this week's episode. Marketing your book can be difficult, especially if you're someone who has made the mistake of marketing it after finishing it and not while you're writing it. There are many ways to market a book, from ensuring the cover itself looks nice and eye-catching, to promoting it on social media or even with physical ads. So like I had mentioned beforehand, designing the cover of your book is immensely important. Data, which I will include in the description of this episode, shows that 52% of buyers purchase a book based because of its cover, with only 5% caring who the actual author is. Now, that doesn't mean you need to spend hundreds of dollars getting it designed or to have to take a graphic design course. But it would be best to look into a site like Canva and design it there. Then show it to a few people to get their feedback and some suggestions. Because bonus point if you make a few different covers and have them vote on their favorite and what ways it can be improved. This is possibly the most important part when it comes to marketing your book because it draws people in, catches their eyes, and makes them want to know more. If you've ever seen the original covers of my novels, then you know how horribly they looked early on. And that's primarily because I wanted to use a picture of myself wearing my skull masks, because they looked cool, and then I tinted them a dark red to show it's more of a dark fantasy type of story. But it did not look pleasing to the eye and ended up making the words difficult to read. Now I've decided to give up my idea of using those pictures and instead made the covers on Canva with elemental symbols that make up the characters' powers. So, they look cool, almost Shakespearean, and they give the customer a quick view into what the story might be about. So keep in mind, cover is 52% and name is 5%. So eye-catching color, and if you're using a pen name, then best to have it as a memorable name that is also pretty easy to spell. Next up is the back of the book, the synopsis, and possibly some information about you if you choose to incorporate it. Don't put reviews on the back of the book, people hate that. Instead, if you'd like to include reviews, then put them on the inside, where some books choose to put the synopsis nowadays, or even the about the author. But don't put the reviews on the back of the book. It's not helpful whatsoever when it comes to trying to convince someone to purchase your book. And if anything, it might even turn them away. Someday I will, however, make an episode on how to write a synopsis. I do feel as though it would be better for me to go more in depth. So instead, for now, I will be doing a bit of a summary on how to write one. So there are a few important elements that should be included to write a good synopsis. 1. Mention your main character or characters' names. 2. A summary of your story without providing any spoilers. This can be in 3 points, beginning, middle, and end, or 5 for exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and conclusion/cliffhanger. 3. outlining major subplots. So for instance, an action/adventure that possesses a romance can be believed to draw people in. 4. A premise, which is basically the genre, place, and actions that may take place throughout the story. Remember that I will be making another episode on writing a synopsis soon, and will also provide a few examples as well. Hell, we can even try to make ChatGPT write a synopsis and then vote on if we'd read that book or not. Now for the next step. An author website. Which, yes, a lot of people may struggle with for a range of reasons. Them being actually building the website to keeping up with updating it if you choose to have a blog option. There are plenty of free website options out there, of course. I've been using WordPress for a few years now, and even though my site doesn't look the best, which is actually entirely due to my poor designing skills, so there's no worry about needing to know code or hire a programmer in order to build a website. You can just use a drag drop edit type of website builder. I will, of course, be including a link to my website in the description of this episode, so then you can all check it out yourselves if you'd like a few ideas. But it's also important to keep SEO, or search engine optimization, in mind. Basically, search engine optimization is used to ensure that your site and books are higher up on the results page whenever someone looks something up. This is done through a variety of ways, either through hashtags, certain keywords used in the site name or description, and so much more. SEOs can be pretty competitive at times, with a lot of companies hiring people with the primary role of improving and keeping up with their SEO. So be sure to put in the research of your market and the work you're sharing in order to pinpoint the best customers possible. Next up is posts and social media. As you all may know by now, using sites such as Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and many others are pretty amazing ways to build a following and promote your books. Though if you're like me and not that good with posting on social media consistently, then you may struggle with maintaining followers or gain that many interactions. But just keep up with it. I may be bad at consistently posting on social media, but you might be millions of times better than me. But remember to just keep in mind, focus on posting hashtags about readers, not writers and authors. Writers and authors focus on promoting their books, so they don't look at those hashtags, while readers want to share book recommendations and look for their next read. So instead of posting to say writers of Instagram or authors of Instagram, post to readers of Instagram, Bookstagram, and so on. Next up is pitching yourself. This can be done in a variety of ways, from creating ads or even trying to be a guest speaker on a podcast. And I know I personally love to bring people on to collaborate with me and tell me about their life and what they had written. Hell, I even created a Google forum for it. So yeah, I'd highly recommend vouching for yourself, even if it's starting as small as writing and reading communities on Discord. Next, create audiobooks for your stories, like how I do with having the first 10 chapters of my novels available, and then the rest have to be paid for. However, you can also choose to have all of your chapters available for free, but that's just a decision I had decided to do with myself. Though Spotify also recently added an audiobook feature, so feel free to upload your audiobook to Amazon, and it's also free to upload your audiobook to Amazon, and you get a certain amount of royalties. So just do some research, and there'll be plenty of ways to promote your book on a variety of sites. Speaking of sites, there are also plenty of book promo sites out there. Some free, some cost money. Though they may have less of an effect than all of the other options shared. So just be mindful and remember, don't spend money you don't have. So much like how I tell people to not invest in a bunch of expensive equipment when they're starting a podcast, I also am telling you to not spend money on ads and other paid modes of marketing until you've actually made that money yourself off of the works that you're publishing. When you're starting off, just focus on promoting your book through social media posts, collaborations, and so on. Once you've started to make more money, then you can put that money towards ads. Finally, book reviews. They're very important for a large variety of reasons. It can be helpful for improving your own writing, shifting the plot in the next story slightly to what your audience might like a bit more. Knowing their likes, dislikes, promoting yourself to others with proof that you are talented. It may even be best to collect some of your best reviews and actually put them on your author site, which can inevitably lead to even more sales since people are seeing a common occurrence of your enjoyable works of creative writing. And one last thing, keep in mind that it takes a while. You won't become a millionaire overnight or sell 1,000, 100, or even 10 copies the moment you're published. Hell, you may never even sell 10 or 1. But you know what? You published a book. Look at the people around you. Did they publish a book? In my case, whenever I'm down on myself, seeing others' recent successes, I just keep in mind. I published a book at 16 and wrote 3 novels by the time I was 15, my first being when I was 14. And yeah, I haven't been able to speed through as many stories lately as I had 1 to 2 years ago. Writing a chapter or 2 a day, going for a run every morning, a 2-hour bike ride every day, finishing all my schoolwork early and reading for 2 to 3 hours a day. But you know what? I'm still achieving things. Just in different areas of my life. I'm making more money now since I actually work, unlike when I was 14 and 15. I'm improving my culinary abilities every day, making my own recipes and collecting them into a cookbook. So yeah, even if you only sold 2 copies, that's still 2 copies and a few dollars more than if you were to do otherwise. So just do your best. I believe in you. Well, now I feel bad for ending on such an emotionless note, but it has to be done. So let's just get through the outro and get back to writing. Check out my novels Death Trail, Flame Rip, and Arctic Blaze on Amazon and Kobo, link in description. Check out the Creative Writing Club Premium on Patreon and Spotify, link in description. Check out the Creative Writing Club Discord server in description. Check out my personal Instagram at dark_night_wolves. And let's bring this surprisingly motivational meeting to an end.